Everyone, welcome to the council meeting for today, the 21st of August. Can you join me in standing for the karakia, please? Whakatakateho ki te uru, whakatakateho ki te tonga, kia mākina kina ki tuta, kia mātārata ki tai, he hea ki ana te atukura, i teo, i hoka, i hohu, ti he Māori ora, i ora. Okay, so this morning we have apologies for lateness from the Mayor and Councillor Henstock. A partial absence for Councillor Harrison, Hunt, Moore and McClellan, who will be joining us by AV for some items later on. Apology for absence from Councillor Templeton, and noting that Councillor Keon may need to rejoin the meeting via AV in the afternoon. Can I have a mover and a seconder for those? Councillor Barber, Councillor Peters, all those in favour say aye. Aye, opposed, that's carried. And with the will of the meeting, I'm going to switch around items 14 and 15. That's leaving item 15 Takaha to the final item in the meeting, if that's all right. So we have no declarations of interest. Welcome. No public participation this morning. Oh, sorry, we do. We do have public participation. We absolutely have public participation. So first up, we have the Christchurch City Mission, and I'd like to welcome Melissa, who will speak on behalf of the mission about their outreach service. So please come to the table, Melissa. Well, there's a few of you, so Morena, and I'll leave it to you to introduce yourselves to us. Welcome.
I'm aware of the time.
Yes, it's tricky, isn't it? But
it is. Kia ora, Morena. We want to just very quickly introduce ourselves. I'm Melissa McCrenna. I'm the Social Impact Manager at the City Mission.
Kia ora, I'm Josh Gardner. I am Outreach Kaimahi.
Kia ora, I'm Machu, the new Outreach Kaimahi for the City Mission. Thank you.
Look, we're of the clock. Thank you for the opportunity to come and update you on the work of the City Mission Outreach team. Initially, we want to thank the Christchurch City Council for your ongoing support of this mahi with the 3-year Better Off funding. This enables us to really strengthen this work. Firstly, we've appointed our second outreach worker, Machu Taitoko, to complement and build on the work of Josh and all the work that Josh was doing in that space. This gives us more capacity. Secondly, this funding will allow us to extend this mahi into the weekends. Homelessness, as you know, doesn't just happen Monday to Friday, 8:30 to 5. So throughout this work, our key focuses are, number one, he tangata, he tangata, he tangata. Keeping our kaiwa, those who are homeless, at the centre of this mahi, building trust, listening to them, planting seeds, understanding what led them to this place, supporting readiness for change whilst maintaining their mana. The second focus of this work that we do is about building relationships with kaiwa, our businesses, both in the inner city and also the suburbs, also community organisations and also our partners. We absolutely can't do this work on our own. It's all about communication, it's all about collaboration, it's vital. We want to thank the Inner City Collaboration Action Group. We're a partner in this group and have valued the shared solutions and joined our approach. Thank you to the council, to Rose, to John, to Gary in that space. So I'm incredibly proud of the outreach team and what they have achieved in this 12 months. We wanted to come and present a little bit about what we've done in that 12 months. We're going to do it really, really quickly because there's a lot of data up there and we want to have an opportunity for questions as well. Very briefly, there's been about 1,756 interactions with street whānau. That's around about 146 interactions per month. But there's been 320 new referrals from the public, self-referrals from businesses, from council. That works out about 27 per month. We've had contact with 375 businesses, with 534 interactions. We've done over 570 referrals with Kaiwa consent to a wide range of different providers out there in the community. A number of those within the city mission in terms of our shelters, in terms of our day programs, but also MSD, health providers, and also housing providers. We've also, Housing First would have been one of those providers. We've done over 140 referrals to them, not just for referrals, but it's follow-up and also inquiries to that awesome community organisation as well. We've given out a huge amount of resources, 219 sleeping bags, 289 pairs of shoes, 114 pairs of socks. So many resources out there. We also want to thank those community groups for all the donations that we've had. We've housed 69 people, with our partners helping us be involved in that space. But I really, really quickly, I'm seeing the time, Kaiwa, in terms of their voice, we wanted to share this quick quote with you in regards to the impact that we've actually had. So this is a quote for one of our homeless. I've been a client at the City Mission for a number of years. I did 15 years in the streets and became his client a few years ago. In my eyes, this man saved me from a life of drugs and living rough. He did it in a way I found unique. He did it with no judgment and few words. What he did was he sat with me when times were rough. He talked with me and gave me multiple options and opened lots of doors for me to choose which one I'd walk through. 3 times he was there for me while I attempted rehab. I failed twice with no judgment. The thing I found is he is a man of his word. If he says he'll do something, he did. If you spend just half an hour with him, you'll see he is respected and cherished by hundreds of street people because he is a man of his word. I'm now living and working, plus studying in Wellington, addiction-free. Although he says I did all the work, I wouldn't have started this journey without his help, his respect and his honour. I don't believe I'd be where I am today. There should be more people like him. To me, he is an inspiration. So that's the voice of one of our workers. So we just want to leave it there. If there are any questions.
Oh, look, I'm sure there are squillions of questions, but we're out of time and we've got a fairly hefty agenda. But look, it's really important that you are keeping in touch with us. We really care, and we do have investment in the city and in the mission. And I want to thank you on behalf of all of us for everything that you're doing for our city and our people. Thank you.
Kia ora.
Oh, that was very moving. So now Brad Stokes, Cassidy, Will Davis and Brodie Gardner are speaking about threatening behaviour of some homeless people and their proposal for a change to the current public places bylaw. It's quite fitting that you're following that.
Yeah, it is pretty fitting.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's a good, really works into what we're trying to propose. So, yeah, definitely hear you guys and agree with it completely.
Yeah.
So good morning, councillors. My name is Brad. To my left is Brodie and to my right is Will. We are 3 Year 13 students from Shirley Boys High School. It is a pleasure to be sitting in front of you today to share a proposal that counteracts an issue that affects many in our city.
First of all, we'd like to thank all the councillors who took their time to respond to emails and give us leads, feedback, and voice our opinions on this issue. Your contribution was much appreciated, and we definitely took any and all feedback on board.
Over the past couple of years, all 3 of us, as well as many people we have spoken to, have noticed an increase in antisocial behaviour from certain homeless individuals in Christchurch. We have also recognised that homeless people sleeping and begging outside shop fronts proves an obstruction and an inconvenience for both members of the public, shop owners, and visitors to our city. We want our streets to feel safe and for businesses to have confidence to trade. We also do not want our city to get a bad rap from visitors or tourists. Any form of antisocial behaviour could result in people not visiting our great city.
As proud Cantabrians, we'd like to effect change in Christchurch, and in particular in the CBD. We are pushing for a change in the public places bylaw to reflect something similar to what the Hamilton City Council currently has. We'd like a change that bans nuisance behaviour. This includes begging that is likely to cause harassment, alarm or distress to any reasonable person or causing an unreasonable interference with the peace, comfort or convenience of any person.
Please draw your eyes to the screen. This is a snippet of the Hamilton Safety in Public Places bylaw. The red arrows are the key areas we would like to target.
Many elected councillors have brought to our attention that a proposal like this could be in breach of the Bill of Rights Act 1990. However, after consultation with the Hamilton City Council, they have made us aware that a bylaw like this is allowed under the Local Government Act 2002. If a law like this was in breach of the Bill of Rights, Hamilton City Council wouldn't be able to have this bylaw in place.
Many prominent Christchurch businesses and institutions support our proposal as this issue has affected them and their operations in one way or another. Ballantyne's department store supports our proposal. As I'm sure many of you are aware, they have a large homeless presence outside their shopfront. Teapai Convention Centre and the Christchurch Bus Exchange have also had incidents involving harmful homeless people.
It is evident change is needed. We feel strong that a new bylaw that addresses nuisance behaviour is non-discriminatory towards genuine homeless people, but this would incorporate a wider group.
We look forward to seeing effective actions taking place swiftly. Many thanks for your time and consideration. We're happy to answer any questions you may have.
Well,
Thank you.
fantastic. We have a question, Councillor Goff.
Thank you very much. Do you know how effective the Hamilton bylaw has been?
We're still in consultation with Hamilton City Council. This is an ongoing thing for us, so we're definitely trying to work that out. We are getting current figures on the homeless population around New Zealand and stuff like that, and comparing the bylaws. Does the Christchurch City Council have a number of how many people are currently homeless or considered homeless in the city?
Perhaps we could have a look and let you know.
Yeah,
And we could forward it to you.
that would be awesome. Yeah.
Would the City Mission hold that information?
Yeah.
We'll definitely get that for you.
Cool. Yeah. No, that sounds good. Thank you. But yeah, no, we'll definitely look into that because obviously it has to be effective. Yeah.
I was just wondering if we could help there with contacting Hamilton. Do you think we might be a good idea? And we could send you that as well.
Awesome. No, thank you for that.
Any other questions? Are you through to Councillor Goff? Councillor Kewen and then Councillor Scandrett.
Yeah, going by the presentation we had prior to you, which is very timely.
Yeah.
Have you met with the City Mission and the outreach work?
We have not. So in our inquiry, being in contact with the City Mission has been kind of the later part of it. So we definitely want to continue. And
given they're here today, are you going to go swap numbers and?
We would.
'cause
Yeah, that would
give
be
you a good heads up.
yeah, absolutely. We'd definitely do that.
They
And
want to get a solution as well.
yeah,
So,
no, absolutely. And I feel like these can both work in together. Obviously, we don't just want to kick people off the streets and make them know where to go. We definitely want more funding and stuff like that.
69 housed is amazing.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely. Yeah.
So Scandrett?
Yeah, thank you. 'Cause I guess with regards to begging, there are some outstanding guys out there. There's Mickey down by the boat sheds who actually cleans the street, etc. And
Awesome.
hugely respectful. And there are others like him. I guess it's just, are you looking at just kind of lifting the behaviour of some, or what? I mean,
Yeah. So any like behaviour that can be seen as antisocial, we're not even targeting just homeless people. This could be for teenagers loitering outside a shop front that like yelling slurs and stuff like that. We're not just targeting that group.
Okay.
So I guess there is a grey area between people who are genuinely homeless, and then people who are just causing a nuisance. But
okay, cool. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, it sounds like you've got quite a good appreciation of the problem.
Absolutely.
And it's not an easy one to solve.
No,
I know
no.
you know that. But yeah, I love the idea of you collaborating with the mission,
Yeah.
and I'm sure they'll be able to help you along as well. So we'll get you that information
Awesome.
too.
That would be awesome.
Hey, look, thank you very much for picking this
No,
up
thank
and
you.
coming in to talk to us. It's
Thanks
nice
for that,
to
guys.
see you.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. Cheers. Thank you.
Thank you.
Cheers.
It's great to see the young ones stepping up and coming in. Mind you, everyone's young to me now. Right, moving on. The Atlas Quarter. Mark and Claire want to speak about requesting security cameras for the Atlas Quarter residential area. Welcome, Mark and Claire.
Kia ora koutou, thank you. So we can go to the next slide. So strictly speaking, what we're asking for at the moment isn't so much actually for the cameras and for the funding, but it's for an investigation to find out how much it would actually cost. Is the infrastructure already there on the street to enable cameras to be installed? So, and we've been speaking to some, council staff about this, and they indicated that getting approval for such an investigation would be the next step. So if we go to the next slide, seems like safety and security is the theme of the meeting today. And so, yeah, as a large apartment development right in town with, late night bars nearby and all that kind of stuff, we get security incidents. We probably are only, scratching the surface in terms of what we actually know about that has happened. Certainly the police only ever hear about a fraction of what happens, but we're trying to do our best to take stock of everything that's affecting our community and encourage everyone to sort of communicate about it and engage proactively and try and find solutions. So if we go to the next slide, our body corporate formed a security working group, because as you've alluded to, there are no easy answers for safety and security, but we've got, so Claire's very ably led a group of people in our complex who are really passionate about trying to find solutions and trying to build consensus among our 113 owners in the complex. And they've done some great work, looked into what is and isn't feasible and what the prices of things might look like, and they've really come to the conclusion that we kind of need a phased approach. There are some low-hanging fruit that we're pursuing, and then there are other things that will take a longer period of time. A really key message from the police is that cameras are important. They do help with seeing what's happened, if there are repeat offenders, trying to triangulate between different incidents and get to the bottom of things. But there are concerns among owners about, the privacy impacts of cameras, and kind of the place we've got to is where it seems like residents will be quite happy to have cameras at the entrances to the complex rather than actually on site, and they'd be quite happy if only the police had access to those cameras. So that's the advantage of the council installing cameras rather than body corporate, is then only the police can review the footage rather than the body corporate committee, which introduces privacy concerns. So if we go to the next slide, so you can see Atlas Quarter there. We've got two entrances. So Dundas Street is just behind Pack and Save, and you can get to our complex down Atlas Lane, or you can get to our complex on Wells Street. And so if it was possible to have cameras in the vicinity of those two entrances, then that would be really helpful for us to actually monitor when things have happened and help police get to the bottom of it. So if we go to the next slide, why do we think the council could have a role in funding cameras? Well, the council has a goal of getting 20,000 people living in the city centre, and so safety is an important part of that, and showing that people can actually live safely in the city centre. We were kind of the first cab off the rank at Atlas Quarter, getting into the city centre. Would love to see more developments. If you look at the streetscape, it still kind of reflects the industrial past of the area, and we're really keen to start seeing council giving the kinds of investment that are needed to reflect that this is now a high-density residential area. And if there are cameras that only the police can access, that will be an incentive to residents to actually report incidents to the police, because that's the only way that the security footage is going to be useful, and that the police might actually be able to take that to a useful conclusion. So if we go to our last slide, questions.
Do you have any idea what sort of money you're looking at for a camera?
It depends whether there's already cabling down the road and things like that. So that's why we would like an investigation. So my understanding is it would be like a few thousand, but the low thousands per camera, but it's really dependent on whether there's infrastructure already in place, or whether that could be put in place as part of an upcoming upgrade to the street.
Yeah, one would imagine that there would be. Councillor Scandrett.
Yeah, like you've brought up a really interesting subject, because I think every single councillor around this table have communities that want cameras. And I'm not quite sure, excuse me, of the hierarchy, because as you know, with intersections, we have a hierarchy with regards to accident rates and etc. So I think that would be the question for me, because I couldn't support your request until there was some kind of measure throughout all communities. So it's one of those issues. The police do love cameras. I love cameras. I think they're fantastic, but there is a shortage of them and a huge need for them. So good luck.
I think once we understand the cost, that puts us in a better position to understand what the different options might be to make it work as well.
There has been talk of mobile cameras, so we could share them around different communities, but maybe that's an option. But I think it's something that we should bring up.
But I think it's really helpful that you've come in and explained to us your situation and with some ideas. And I see you've got Gary at the table with you there, so we can follow up and see what we can do. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Nice to see you. So, Councillor Johansson, you wanted to acknowledge Tongan Language Week. Would you like to do the greeting for us that you were going to do at the beginning of the meeting?
It's just come through, so maybe at the end, or I can do it tomorrow. It's part of community funding.
Yep, whatever you want, you let me know.
Thanks.
Kia ora. Oh, talofa. Okay, so that there's no deputations or petitions today, so we'll go on to our agenda. So first of all, we've got item 5, the Community Board Part A reports. We've got 2, item 5 and 6. So item 5 is the South East Central Neighbourhood Plan, which was approved by the Papaduina Central Waipapa Community Board. Does anyone have any questions? I've got staff here or not? Right, I'll invite a mover for this. I'll move it. Councillor Peters moving it. Seconder? I'll second it then. Is there any discussion? No? All right, I'll put the motion. All those in favour say aye. Aye. Opposed? That's carried. Thank you. Item 6, you remember this one came at the last week with the request for an alcohol ban. This is Northern Stanmore Road. The staff have had a look at the resolution and are happy with it. So we approved the Edgware Village process last week, and this is just following along the same ilk, is just requesting work be done to gather the information to ensure that that if we're asking council to install an alcohol ban, that it does comply with the LGA and all the requirements that are needed there. So it'll take 6 months to do that work. So are there any questions on this one? No, we kind of did a lot of questions last time. So, the resolution notes the concerns and support attached to the agenda report relating to the Richmond Resident and Business Association's request for an alcohol ban, and then requesting staff investigate the ban in the public places bylaw. Moved by Councillor MacDonald, seconded by Councillor Coker. Any discussion? Right, all those in favour say aye. Aye. Opposed, that's carried. Right, to our staff reports, item 7, the council's submission on the New Zealand's Emissions Reduction Plan 2630. So this is the government submission. So, is there any questions on this one? I personally think it's a really, really good submission. It is due today, so we can really only do minor tweaks to this one. The only thing we need to do with this one, I think, is we're agreeing that the mayor will sign it off, and we appoint a representative of the council to share the views, requesting a meeting with the minister, and we need a representative to speak to that. Oh, welcome. So, do you think Councillor Templeton would be the appropriate person?
I'd move that if you'd
Yep.
quite happy to do that.
Councillor Templeton, I think, and she's not here, but I assume she'd be happy to do it.
I think she's had input into the...
Yes, it does, doesn't it? Welcome, Tony.
Kia ora.
It's a really good report.
Thank you.
I went through it trying to see if I could pick something that was missing, but I couldn't find anything. Is there anything you want to highlight to us?
No, I think we've. If you've read it, that's great. Just the point, I suppose, that it was circulated to you earlier, and so it hasn't changed. We haven't received any feedback from the earlier circulation, so that it remains consistent with the one you saw earlier. But obviously, we've spoken with other councils, including the Mayoral Forum and the Regional Council, and they have very consistent messages back to the government, which is effectively, do more, meet the targets, and also consider local government more, and be bold with their actions. So those sort of themes are consistent across different councils.
Yeah.
But I'm happy to answer your questions.
The only thing I wondered was that when you talk about, and I think it's on page 1110.14, the government is best placed to coordinate and take the lead. And I know you're talking about education, but in actual fact, we've always said local government is kind of the best place for that. And that would lead me to point that out and request resourcing for it. What do you can you comment on that?
Yes, certainly. I mean, I guess the theme was that the government could have a nationwide sort of approach to its engagement and communications with the residents of New Zealand. So you're right that local government has a particular role as well, especially with the services we provide, so public transport and waste and minimisation of those sorts of things. But if you want us to change that submission point, we can certainly add a bit more detail there if you want.
Just add perhaps something like, we need to work in partnership.
Yes.
But the local government has a leading role, but resourcing is required to do that. I mean, can you...
Yep, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So Councillor MacDonald has a question.
It was only one thing, was if we could look at adding in, because we've talked about the idea of needing to do more and make things easier. I just thought we may have referenced the fast track legislation, which if you think about energy use across the country, that's going to speed up the ability to decarbonise, if we think about hydro dams and all of that kind of stuff. So it would be good to mention something like that, so that when it's presented, we're reflecting the fact that we know there are challenges, but we need to make the system easier to make progress in.
Sure, thank you. I can make that point. Yes, we'll add it into the energy section.
Cool. Councillor Scandrett, did you want to move it? Councillor Johansson?
Yeah, I just had two questions. I was a bit confused about 22. And basically it says the city has developed an agreed investment plan to improve public transport in the city. We're requesting that the Greater Christchurch public transport futures and mass rapid transit projects are included in the emission reduction plan. I thought the government had already agreed to the transport futures, but if not, are we able to signal what the quantum of funding request is? Because it's very vague, and it might be quite good to actually just specifically highlight what the quantum is that we're seeking from government.
Sure, thank you. You can make that change. I mean, I guess the observation there was most of the funding proposed in the emission reduction plan was all for North Island projects. So effectively the South Island was not included in any of the...
There seems to be some confusion about whether we've got any money for our Greater Christchurch Public Transport Futures program from government. Does anyone know? Did it all just get cut? Or...
Couldn't confirm that.
Okay.
We'll get you information about that.
Okay, because we've got the transport one coming up. But again, I think, if we can be specific about what's currently funded and what's unfunded and what the request is, I think that would be helpful. And just the second point from me was on 26 and 27. We talk about the different ports, but one submission point I think we've made in the past, which we don't include in here, is the need for a national infrastructure strategy around ports and airports. And we don't have any, but I know our companies in the past, when we've raised it, I think have generally been quite sympathetic. So instead of having every city compete to build new infrastructure or expand our existing infrastructure bigger and bigger, that's financially and environmentally unsustainable, actually having a national strategy around what we do as a country might be quite beneficial. So I was just wondering if maybe we could just add a word point in there.
Understand, thank you.
Is that all right, Tony?
Yes, sure.
Okay. And then I just had another one here in number 43, page 114, nitrogen fertiliser. Revenue could be used to fund the development and uptake of further mitigation technologies, and also supporting regenerative farming, because that doesn't rely heavily on nitrogen either. Do you think, is that okay? I'm asking you if everything's okay, because
Yes, of
this
course.
is last minute stuff, and if
totally
you have
fine.
an issue, just just tell us.
This is your submission, and it needs to reflect your
Yeah, but
wishes.
we want your guidance on whether that's okay to include it and whether it's any point in including it.
Thank you. So regenerative farming is certainly a strategy farms can take to reduce their inputs and reduce their impacts. So you're right. It's a key. It's an opportunity for New Zealand to be a leader in regenerative farming, and that's roughly about the right location to put that information.
Fantastic. Okay. Oh, Councillor Donovan.
Just following up on the point around the fast track legislation, around point 32, I just want to make sure that we don't sort of send mixed messages around enabling emissions through opening up things that would, promote more emissions. So just making sure that we're clear on that point.
Effectively what I'm meaning, and I'm sure we'll be able to capture it, is that there's benefit in the fast track because of some aspects allow for more environmental activities to occur. So as long as we can capture that, that would be good.
Yes,
Obviously noting Celeste's point to be specific on the benefit of the fast track.
Thank you. Yes, it is possible, of course, for fast tracking mining, for example, activities. So so the point, we're talking about renewable energy solutions, aren't we here?
That's right.
Correct. Yep.
In emission reduction, so you wouldn't put anything else in. Okay. Has this been moved? No. Did you want to move it, Councillor Scandrett?
Yeah, I'll move it. And, are we going to debate or just?
Yeah, we can. And a seconder? Councillor Fields? So I open up for debate. Councillor Scandrett?
Yeah, thank you very much for the work you've done on this. This is a huge journey for the world and for us as well. But I do think as we go forward, we do have to be sensitive. If we look at the farming community, the suicides on farms, etc., the pressure they are under with climate change and the restrictions that are being placed on them, they're almost unfair where other industries are kind of let loose almost and untouched. So I think that we've got to be sensitive of those around us, and I do think we need to put pressure on central government, irrelevant of the political parties, about legislation to support what communities are looking for and need for the future, because it's not about us. Well, me, I'm kind of more over the hill than some of you, but the next generations, and we've got to really start this journey now. And so to you guys, thank you so much for your work you're doing. May not always agree 100% with it, but it's definitely going the right way, and we have to go there. So thank you.
Thank you.
Well said. Anybody else? I'd just like to support your comments. Excellent submission, really clearly outlined and not too wordy. Clear and concise is important. So thank you.
Thank you.
All right, I'll put the motion. All those in favour say aye. Aye. Opposed? That's carried. Well, and one abstention from Councillor Henstock.
2 abstentions.
Oh,
And Kieran.
and Councillor Curran. Right.
Thank you.
So actually, talking about fast track, we're fast tracking today. Mark, we're just waiting for a little bit more information, so I think we'll leave item 8 till after morning tea. I didn't think we get to it so quickly. That's okay. So that takes us to item 9. Oh, we haven't even pulled it up yet. It's been moved by Councillor Curran. This is a road stopping for airspace for a new building that's planned over the road, and just a little bit's going to hang over, a bit like a veranda. Are you seconding? Councillor Peters. Is there any questions? Any discussion? I'll put the motion. All those in favour say aye. Aye. Opposed? That's carried. Item 10. This is another report to receive the report on the waste minimisation and management plan. Moved by Councillor Scandrett. And, well, we might get you to the table just in case. It's seconded by Councillor Barber. Are there any questions for staff on this one? Councillor Johansson has a question, so yes, it is worth coming to the table. Welcome.
Hello.
Hi.
Thank you. Thank you for the work that you guys are looking to do on this. I'm just wondering, how do we have input at a governance level to get things looked at?
So, as in, how do the elected members have input?
Yeah.
So as per the process, we'll be needing to consult with elected members. So the previous plan, there were workshops held, and we'll be following that process, and we'll also be going to all of the community boards as well.
Right, cool. So if we want specific issues looked at in terms of waste recovery, there'll be an opportunity for us to provide that to you.
Yes, yeah, and we would anticipate that there are a few specific issues that elected members are quite interested in, so there will definitely be a forum for those to be discussed and worked out in workshop format.
Great. And just, will this look at glass recovery?
That would definitely be encompassed.
Yeah, so the glass recovery will be included. So we look at all the material types, all the service types. So yeah, glass will be included, yeah.
Great, thank you.
So this piece of work takes, was it 2 years? And you have to do it every 6 years?
Yes, yeah, so we're just approaching the 4-year mark. Ministry for the Environment advised 17 to 18 months plus several months for planning. So we are giving ourselves quite a lot of time because we have a lot of big projects coming up as well.
So all this legislative stuff we have to conform to, that it makes a lot of work for the organisation, doesn't it? But I mean, this is a good thing to do because we get the data and we know where we're at with our waste minimisation. And of course it reflects on the levy as well, doesn't it?
Yes, it's a requirement of us continuing to receive the waste levy.
Yeah. Councillor Kewell?
Yeah, so just questions around the levy. Is the levy working? Is it getting the outcome that it was intended to get? And are there any negative outcomes, i.e. fly tipping and stuff like that?
There have been a lot of queries around that. So the levy is currently $60 a tonne for Class 1 landfills, and it will go up to $75 a tonne by July 2026. There hasn't been any research specifically done around that, but I know that Ministry for the Environment are very aware of queries from councils around whether there's a link there. But we know that illegal dumping is more of a social behaviour issue rather than a financial issue from the research that's been done so far, even though that doesn't necessarily sound like that would be the case. So when we're addressing things like illegal dumping, we'll be looking at how to address the behaviours and the service levels that we provide would be encompassed in part of that, and compliance. So we've been already looking into various actions to address that.
Okay, and the money collected, where's that going and what's its input-output rate?
So 50% is retained by Ministry for the Environment, and they use that for their waste minimisation fund, which has recently been amended to encompass a whole lot more projects. But we can apply for projects that are of benefit, so councils can band together or apply separately, and then the other 50% comes back to the TAs, contingent on their waste minimisation management plan being current.
Okay, and so since the levy started, have we seen a reduction in waste? Like, when does that become measurable?
It's more if we're investing in infrastructure to reduce waste. So yes, for example, a lot of councils use it to collect their organics. So it's their investment signals have been around reducing organics to landfill. So there's a bit of a reduction there. But it takes a while to sort of see the effects.
It'd be nice to see that even on a yearly kind of number of where the big movements have been and where the wins are.
Right.
Yeah, it would be good. I think everyone would be interested in the numbers. Just not a huge report, but just seeing the highlights, and that way we know where to be putting more money or less. Because there's a lot getting collected as long as it's spent well to get the result we're after, rather than it sounds good, but thank you.
Yeah, well, if it's possible to get some data, that would be really helpful. And the levy that we get in the council stays in the program. It has to be spent on.
It has, waste. Yeah. It's not allowed to be spent on disposal fees. And just another point on data, it's a bit difficult because waste is so contingent on the economic status. So we look at tonnages to landfill, and that's reflective of so there's a lot of different parameters that are influencing our tonnages. So if we're reporting back on that, we would need to ensure that we are stating all of the different things that are influencing our tonnages as well.
Yes, so if it came from, say, from construction or something, it could skew the numbers.
Yes, yeah.
So we're talking about people's rubbish that they're chucking out. So does that get separated at the point, for instance, at Cape Valley? Do they separate it out to monitor it? Or
No, so waste is just received as general waste or special waste. So the likes of asbestos is always handled separately, but it's not separated out at Cape Valley.
So how can we really truly get good data on whether our minimisation?
We've been discussing that with other councils, so we've been looking into how we could perhaps have mechanisms around bylaws for waste licensing. Ministry of Environment have just introduced different activity categories that need to be used at the weighbridges. So when someone's going over a weighbridge, the operators need to choose a different activity category based on where the waste has come from.
Yeah.
We just have to be quite aware that the more data that's collected, the more work is put onto those people that are at the coalface dealing with the public, and people up until now not used to being asked where their waste has come from. So it's quite a change to people's they're used to just going to the dump, as it's traditionally called, putting it in a landfill, and that's it. So we need to change that, and that will be that can be quite difficult.
And the other remaining data we can collect is the red bins, the curbside collection. If the I assume we weigh that. Do they weigh all that, or is it just calculated on the number of bins that go out?
Yes, so it's weighed, but as part of the preliminary review of the Waste Minimisation Management Plan, we do a waste assessment, and part of that is a solid waste analysis project, I guess you call it. So that's where we break down, we have a look into what is coming in from our curbside bins and what's going into our pits at the transfer stations. And
what and how much?
Yeah, so percentages of what could have been recovered, and then percentages of what is currently classed as waste.
Wow, so that's interesting. Councillor Kewen.
Yeah, it is, and we could probably dig in this for a while. So if we could get a briefing sometime in the next 6 months on the whole waste minimisation, where we've been, where we're at, and where we're going, because I mean there's so much change right now, and there's a lot of money being collected, which means there's a lot of opportunity. So a briefing, one of our briefing sessions, I think would be really handy on this, because rubbish is our core business, and it, you know, so much opportunity. It'd be good to know. Thank you.
Yep, no, that's a good thing. Is that possible, Chief Executive? Yeah, we've made a note. Here we go.
Just to note, the waste assessment will encompass that's the work that the waste assessment is, and that needs to go to council, and we also need to discuss it with the local medical officer of health to sign off and provide feedback on.
Right, but that's in the end of the 2 years.
No, so that will be within the next 6 month period.
Okay, so should we do it after that? Yeah, lovely. Any other questions? So you can see there's a good interest in it, which is healthy. So it's been moved and seconded, has it? Yes. So any discussion? No? All those in favour say aye. Aye. Opposed? That's carried. Thank you. Item 11. We've got the policy and practices, the Section 10A requirement of the Dog Control Act, and this is something we have to provide information through to central government to ensure that we're complying with our Dog Control Act. Moved by Councillor MacDonald, seconded by Councillor Henstock. Any questions? Pretty pro forma. I'll put the motion. All those in favour say aye. Aye. Opposed? That's carried. Item 12, the Central City Biannual Report, January to June 2024. Would like to be moved by Councillor Goff and seconded by Councillor Johansson. And I'll let John's going to come and give us a bit of a report. Talk to your report. Maybe even a presentation. Have you got a?
We do.
Yes.
We'll just set
Thank you.
just set the technology up a sec. Sorry.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, we can't. Sorry. No, so we can't.
It's not that one's not working at the moment.
We connect that one in.
Oh, so we can't see it.
We should have sent it in advance, so no.
We can circulate it to
Yeah.
councillors.
Right.
Might be just talking.
So we
great.
can't put the presentation up.
All right. I'll just go without.
We just have
pictures
to
then.
fly blind.
All right. Hello everyone, today we're presenting the latest Central City Biannual Report, and that outlines regeneration activity January to June.
this year. I'll go through the essentials today. The actual report and its attachments have all the details. Well, the first slide would have been about our pedestrian footfall data, which is back online, and that tracks activity in key locations as part of regenerating the central city. Consistent growth in footfall is key, and we saw 3.5% growth compared to the same time last year, and Q2 grew by 12%, which is significant progress. Peaks in footfall do come during major events like Brennan Circus, Sail GP, Te Rama Mai, and those peaks significantly boost the city centre's economy and vibrancy, so there's a strong case to continue to invest in these events. Moving on to the economy, first we acknowledge there have been tough times for businesses and the public this year. Spending was slow and only grew 1.4%, but there are still positives to draw. We saw more tourists in the central city, especially over the summer. Overseas visitors spent 24% more compared to the same time last year, and that made up for slower spending by other demographics. More international flight services have made a positive difference. With new venues taking shape, we're optimistic this growth will continue. Regarding commercial development, final delivery of projects has been slower, but construction and consenting continues at a high rate. So as economic conditions improve, we're optimistic delivery can improve as well. Projects like Takaha and the Court Theatre are also well on track. Onto housing, our residential program keeps track of the population and construction in the city centre. We're still waiting on figures from the latest census. We expect to have those in October, and that can indicate what population growth we've seen this year. There's much to be positive about housing-wise, considering the high interest rates and economic struggles we've seen across the country. It's encouraging that the number of homes completed in the period was close to the average we have seen since 2018, and consenting for homes was well above average. So that makes us optimistic that construction can pick up when market conditions improve. When compared to Christchurch as a whole, the city centre's housing market seemed less affected by market conditions, which is encouraging. So in the slides there would have been a chart showing housing delivery has remained steady in the city centre long term, while district-wide there was a slight slowdown this year. And another positive outcome, the South East Central Neighbourhood Plan was completed during the period and just approved by you all today.
Yep.
And that's a positive outcome because this can support more housing, mixed use and investment in the South East area, which has high potential. To support the plan, our Live in Places program also delivered 2 murals, and we're planning more streetscape projects as well. And looking deeper at some other programs, there was visible progress on barrier sites. Only 14 sites remain on the list, and 12 of those have plans in place for repair or development. With vacant sites, the number of abandoned vacant sites fell by half over the last 3 years. This is due partly to sites being developed, but also legitimate temporary uses being established.
That's good.
One example is being the notable improvements we've seen to temporary car parks. Through enforcement action and the vacant site rating, car parks have turned into much better facilities for users. And this has helped in making only 1 in 3 vacant sites being liable for the city vacant rating this year. Last year it was closer to 45%. In support of our vacant sites program, Live in Places also partnered with the owner of a Colombo Street site and turned it into a temporary public space with an eye-catching mural. Ending with the Central City Noise Program, an update report was presented to the Council in June. The program is moving towards completing the initial non-regulatory work that was agreed to at the start of the program. So that includes the initial acoustic assessment of a music venue, publishing our educational web pages, and our Meet Your Neighbours event at Space Academy. Next steps are staying connected with key venues, supporting relationships between venues and residents, and keeping track of any noise control issues and responding promptly. There will be another update on the noise program, including on the plan change early next year. And we'd like to end by noting the contributions of our other agencies and programs and our city-making partners. More details on their work can be found in the report attachment. And that is it. happy to take any questions.
Well, that's incredible.
Yes.
You've just given us a romp right through the city.
Oh.
Fantastic. No, and really, it's a pretty optimistic report, actually, in my view.
Yeah.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to wait for that data to coming out in October. So we've got a few questions. Councillor Johansson, Donovan.
Thank you. I just had two questions. The first is trying to understand more about the Central City illumination strategy that Christchurch NZ is doing. Have we seen a copy of that as council, and is that something that's going to come to us? I'm just, trying to understand what Christchurch NZ's role is and why they'd be delivering that, rather than be something that council would be doing.
Is it the street lighting talking about?
Yes, correct. Councils that have been around for a while will remember that we've discussed this previously as a council, and there was a request to have a lighting strategy for the city, but that never progressed. So I guess a little bit puzzled why Christchurch NZ are now doing it.
Do we hear a response?
So Christchurch NZ initiated that sort of blue skies thinking piece of work last year. It's still, I think it's in the process of just being finalised now. So we've seen drafts of it, but in terms of taking things forward, I understand that they're going to initiate a piece of work to draw council and other potential partners into that work. So that's the only advice I've got at this stage.
Okay, I mean, I guess we're paying for it because we're paying Christchurch NZ. So
It might be a question for
just
CNZ.
maybe we need to just get an understanding of kind of, where this fits into the letter of expectation and the stuff we've asked them to do. I mean, I'd be really keen to get briefed on it if it was possible, just to understand the impact and potential of it. But, I'm not against it. I think it's a good idea, but I'm just concerned that the resources that are going into it, without us actually knowing what the scope of the work is or will be.
Okay, so
We'll get some advice from Christchurch NZ and perhaps ask
And
them to
the second question I had is I just looked at McDonald's has a net worth of 206 billion, and I'm kind of struggling to understand why we're funding one of the wealthiest companies in the world to improve their own property. Is there any sort of criteria that we have around the need for funding going to people that need it versus companies that already have, significant value and profit, and why are we paying for that?
Well, when we choose site owners to partner with for an enlivened project, they do need to put in a certain amount of financial contribution themselves. We ensure that they at least cover the costs for ground improvements, which is the same level that we'd expect from any vacant site owner. In this case, McDonald's were willing to cover those costs, and for that reason, we thought they were a appropriate owner to partner with in this case. They covered the fair costs that would expect from any other site owner for the project. So that was our rationale. Yeah.
And I suppose it means at least you got the work done. So, Councillor Donovan?
Oh, thank you. Very interesting report. I just wondered if you could expand a little bit on plans around Cathedral Square, because I couldn't see too much in the report itself.
I think yesterday's announcement was probably expected, but perhaps not the result we thought of. So this report was written well before those announcements. We have, as staff, initiated some discussions around some of the consequences around the Grand, the square's actual physical state, and that will be coming to you, I suppose, when those further discussions are completed. But at this stage, it's still a work in progress. It's probably fair to say.
Thank you.
But our team is being drawn into that. If that's any.
That we will come back, planning to come back with some advice around that
situation. Yep, we're all aware of it. Councillor Skendra?
Yeah, thank you. You can't have too many strategies, can you, eh? With regards to the intensification in the central city, do we have an idea of private ownership versus rental? Because if you look at, there are now in Florence and other places throughout Europe, there are now being bans on Airbnb and rental rather than ownership, because the rentals are now becoming affordable to the local communities. With us, we don't really want to get there, but do we have an idea? Because the high house prices in many European countries are seen as a failure of the economy. So we have nothing protecting anything in this country, and we're just creating a whole lot of landlords, which is a good thing and a bad thing. I think it's a bad thing if they're foreign owners, but I'm just wondering, do we have an idea of the ownership, private ownership versus Airbnb versus...
This picks up a question that Councillor Johansson raised 6 months ago. We are still waiting for that census data, which have a lot more information about housing tenure and that sort of thing. So when that's available, we will provide that. So
it's October this year.
It should be, but the census data is released in tranches, so I'm not quite sure which tranche it's in, but October is the next big release. So we'll let you...
how will you inform us of that? Will you put it through as a memo, or we're keen to know?
We can take advice on how that's best to provide to you. Yeah.
Thank you. Good question. Councillor Fields.
It's not about Banks Peninsula.
Really?
That would be out of scope of the report.
Yeah,
first of all, like I really commend the work that you do. Like I've seen it firsthand, and I'm really a big fan, and I appreciate it. So Councillor Donovan has preempted my question a little bit, but look, obviously we know what happened in this. Happened yesterday. New information we found out. But around the square, like all the big ticket items around the square in terms of framing it seem to have largely been completed. So I'm just two questions. Like, are there any kind of I don't want to say barrier sites because that's a specific thing, but are there any sort of sites that don't have around the square like a clear future pathway? And secondly, what are the tools and Mary sort of touched on this before with her comments, but like what are the tools in the kit bag that we have to try and enhance that entire space? Because it is a huge, and the building in the middle of it obviously is significant, but it is a massive space and just crying out for some kind of unified
do you want to
program.
Yeah.
So we will come back with a comprehensive, rather than put them on the spot now. There is a...
Sorry for putting you on the spot.
Yeah,
It's quite a big question.
There's a plan to have a sort of coordinated response across our teams and council and come back with some advice.
I can answer the first part of that. I mean, across the sites that are around the perimeter of the square, the owners all have got intentions, but a lot of it has been about the waiting game in terms of what happens in terms of the public realm and the building in the middle, of course.
But I mean, it's starting to look fantastic, I think. I mean, in my view. Thank you.
Councillor Barber.
Thank you, gentlemen. Just about the street art destination development. You've got here that the street art destination program was finalised by Christchurch NZ and presented to council as part of the LTP considerations. Is that different from our funding of Watch This Space?
That's one and the same thing.
Oh, okay.
Yes, you did too. Councillor Kewen.
Yeah, it would be on the central city numbers. It would be good to get comparisons to other parts of the city. Like it says with the spend, I think visitor spend up 24 is great, but the overall spend's only just up, which means the local spend's down considerably, and to know why, and are we part of the barrier or is something else? So if it's something we can be doing to make the world a better place, and then because there's all the events you look at that are on to create atmosphere and bring people in, and you can see the footfall numbers are really, really high, but how many of them are actually spending money would be a nice stat to see, because some of the numbers coming through, like, and you log nearly 1 million people coming through for Scape, but is there 1 million people in town, and Scape just happens to be on at the same time, or did 923,000 people come in to see Scape, in which case it's an incredible investment, if that's true. But so just those sort of things, and then some of the event stuff where they had a particular target, and then it's well below, does that carry on, or do we try something else? And sometimes they can be not met because of the weather as well. Yeah, but comparing to other parts of the city would be really, really good.
Oh,
Yeah.
that would be helpful. Yeah. Yep. Okay. So there's information on the website. We've got Councillor McClellan on Zoom. Welcome, Jake. So yes, we've got some information on the website that John's going to circulate. So good questions. We've got a mover and a seconder. Is there any debate? Did you want to speak to it, Aaron? No. Councillor Henson?
Yeah, I mean, I just want to acknowledge the work that staff. I think this report's really good, so acknowledge the work that staff have done on this. It's like we're given a lot of information, which is really, really good, and presented in a way that's really easy to understand. I do just want to pick up on that concern about what's happening with housing in this city centre, and I am a little bit concerned just waiting for the census data, which will probably be out of date by the time we get it, with all the new developments that are going on. And I wonder if there's another mechanism we need to start thinking about as a city, just to watch what's happening in that space. Obviously, we've passed some relatively new rules around Airbnb, so maybe there's a way that we can capture some of that data. But yeah, I do share the concern that the central city is becoming unaffordable and gentrified, and we do need to be really mindful of the social impact that some of this new development is having on our city and on our communities. But I just wanted to acknowledge the good work that staff have done, and yeah, I do appreciate getting the detailed and extensive information.
Thank you. Good points. Councillor Scandrett?
Yeah, look, I share the concern. I think it's a bigger question than just Christchurch, and if we as a country just keep picking it off in bits and pieces, we'll get nowhere. I think that this country, we're selling our land. There are smaller, some of our Pacific neighbours, small countries don't allow that. You can only lease land, and we're just selling it willy-nilly, and not even just land, it's just buildings. And it's not a positive, I think, in the long run. So I think somehow, through the mayoral forum or whatever, we've got to try and get legislation, or one of the political parties or central government or whatever, to start looking at changing that, because it's about affordability, and it is not affordable any way, shape or form you look at it. And it's being driven by, I believe, one of those mechanisms that is driving it is foreign ownership. And we've got to turn around and change that.
Thank you. Anyone else? Councillor Goff, did you want? Right. All right. I'll put the motion to receive that excellent report. All those in favour say aye. Aye. Opposed? That's carried. Thanks so much. Sorry that we couldn't see the presentation. Next time. That takes us through to item 13, which is the Transport Operations Report. And this is up to July this year. So that's correct, Lynette? So this is the in the mayoral update today. You'll see that this is the first of the new reporting that we're having from all the different departments.
Yes.
So
So
you have the honour.
Kia ora koutou, everyone. I'll do a quick intro, but I know there'll be lots of questions, so I've got Steve and Steve. It's the Lynette and Steve show today. I've got Steve and Steve with me too, because they're the ones that can answer the questions. But this is a new format and layout for us, so we really do and are looking for feedback on what's useful for you, what information you want in it. We acknowledge that there's a lot we could put in it, but we've tried to summarise the information as quickly and concisely as we can to give you as much information as we can in this document. We've also tried to look not just at what we've done, but what's coming. So what's coming up in the next few months and what we're really proud of that we've done recently. So this report does cover actually a 12-month review of Steve Guy's maintenance operations. And it looks particularly at, there's some highlights of some of the safety work that's been done in the last few months. And we've also looked at some of the community initiatives that have been going on. So a couple of highlights just to highlight today. The maintenance team have managed to, we talked earlier in the year about some extra funding that was available from Waka Kotahi. They have managed to deliver that extra funding, and as such, we've managed to get over the 5% of our network delivered, which is great. There's been a load of new initiatives that are discussed in the report around different surfacing opportunities and types. But we've also got some stats in there, and one that I was particularly pleased with was the rapid response footpath crew has been out to over 3,000 jobs. The two crews have managed to do a lot of work over the year, and that is starting to build improvements around the network. From a safety perspective, there's a lot in there around the safety programs that have gone on and the ones and the works that are coming. I just do want to highlight on one of them, we've talked about Graham's Wairakei. It should be Greer's Wairakei, the work that's going on. There was a typo there, sorry about that. But the big one, the one for me that I'd like to highlight, who are our quiet achievers in the background, are our community teams working on the Cycle Safe programs and the programs like Crash Bash. The Cycle Safe teams have seen and run Cycle Safe programs with 3,242 students in the last year.
Can you say that number again?
3,242 children.
Woohoo!
And Crash Bash has been out to 27 different schools, mainly high schools. It was focusing on driving. So yeah, it's looking back, actually, we've managed to do a lot over the year. I am particularly pleased with and proud of getting through as much surfacing as we have, and proud of the maintenance teams for what they've achieved with the extra money. So
that's
I'll
great.
hand that back to you, the Chair, for the questions.
I'm really impressed. I like the format of the report. I actually really like the page 170 where we're responsible for more than you might think. And it's very good outline to see actually what is involved in this whole program that people would not probably normally think of. Are there any questions on the report? Councillor Scandrett and Councillor Coker?
Not so much a question, just want to thank the team for the work done on the Kashmir roundabout. I've had one complaint, but apart from that, everyone else really loves it and sees the improvement in the safety. And I do want to especially thank the team. The shops really suffered through that, and the team got there and tried to minimise that as much as possible, and it was really appreciated. So thank you very much for that. Cool.
Thank you for that.
Kia ora.
It does highlight how important it is staff working with the local councillor just to try and minimise and obviously take the heat off you a wee bit. But yeah, that's well done.
Yeah, councillor and community board. And I think just following on from that, to give them a good heads up about if there are going to be businesses impacted, then we can help, and particularly around appropriate signage and placement of signage as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so Councillor Coker?
Thank you, this is great. You asked for some feedback. I was just thinking, because with the resurfacing, you've got how many kilometres of road we have and the percentage we're aiming for, but the same information about how much footpath we have, which I guess is twice as much, maybe, is not there. So it says how many are resurfaced, but not as a proportion. I'm just wondering if that could be included or if that's an aim.
We can look at that.
And then with the leaf fall, I was just interested that a number of the CSRs meet the intervention threshold. So, well, what is that? Because it'd be interesting to know.
Sure. So we send out quite a lot of information before leaf fall season starts as to what does and what doesn't trigger a response. So ultimately it comes down to, are the leaves causing a safety issue, or are they over the top of a curb and obscuring anybody from seeing a curb? If it doesn't meet that criteria, then it doesn't fail. So what we tend to get is, some instances where you have a small amount of leaf on the road and a customer sending a customer service request, but because it doesn't meet the intervention level, it just gets inspected, monitored, and it gets regularly monitored after that point in time. That's ultimately what it comes down to.
So it's a contractual intervention. So there's levels at which they need to intercede in the contract.
Yeah, with the old gutters and how they can get blocked, is that part of it? I guess, is that related to that?
Kind of, but we already have constant sweeping routine that we drive around the city anyway and sweep. We also have high leaf fall streets that get monitored on a daily basis by teams. So as and when they find them themselves, they call the teams up and they intervene straight away.
Thank you. Councillor Donovan.
Yeah, I just wanted to follow up and sort of give a bouquet to the teams. I think in particular some of the minor safety improvements around some of the roundabouts have been outstanding. And I want to also acknowledge that the council team have worked so well with the community to get a great outcome. And I think that the response through the community board has been extremely positive, and that businesses, residents have all kind of worked on the actual program of work, and the outcome itself has been really positive. So I just want to sort of acknowledge some incredible work there. And just a question, I think the report itself, the format's great. In terms of some of those minor safety improvements, do you sort of go back and then gather feedback afterwards that we can then sort of review? Because I know anecdotally the feedback, say from one of the intersections, the business on the corner have said that they've noticed, this is the bar in Travis, they were Rockwood, sorry. They've said that they've noticed a lot less crashes and just noises in general from people braking and that. So that's been really positive for them. They feel like their business and safety in general has been improved. But do you get that feedback?
We do, yeah. And I think we proactively try to do post-implementation monitoring as well. So we'll come back a year later, look at the crash stats, look at the speeds, and actually see if what we've implemented has been a success and learn from it. And if it hasn't, then we know for the future. So it's just trying to learn and deliver the best we can. So we absolutely take that feedback on board.
Yeah, I just want to acknowledge the work there. That's been fantastic.
Through this.
Yeah, and that minor safety program in particular, I think, has had quite a significant impact within the communities that I represent. So appreciate that.
Councillor Johansson.
Thank you, and thank you for the report. I've previously asked if we could get information at a high level around the stages of MCR, the major cycleways. And one of the things, there's not much mentioned in here, but I'm trying to understand the process in terms of timing, particularly around the different stages that we go through, and where the community or the elected members have an ability to intersect and see what's being proposed. And the reason for asking for that is I see in here we're told on numerous occasions that we're trying to get greater synergy with the work that we're doing. But in terms of the, like if you just go on page 173, use a dig once approach to mitigate any program risk and community disruption, look at sustainable outcomes through collaboration with other agencies and organisations, look at so we have no clashes. But like if you take Pages Road, we potentially have a cycleway going down there, and we've just done a curb and channel renewal as part of the maintenance, where actually the logical place for the cycleway is probably in the same bit of road. So I'm just trying to understand how we can get greater visibility of understanding what the opportunities are to input into areas that seem logical when it's currently not happening. And this was something that just happened like in the last month. This isn't something that goes back 5 years.
Yeah, so we'll get a response.
So Steve probably can't respond to the MCR question. Sorry, I should have highlighted at the start. This report is focused on the operational aspects of the role that we're undertaking. So it's largely maintenance, the minor safety stuff where we don't have regular reporting. The MCRs are reported through. We're trying not to double up on the project reporting as such. So they are reported through there. What I can do is ask the MCR team to just pop an advisement note out about the processes. The work on Pages Road that was done recently was maintenance work because of flooding. So Steve can probably talk to that.
So we have no choice in some instances where we have projects, even if they're planned in the next 2 or 3 years. Sometimes we have no choice but to replace curb and channel through safety issues and through flooding issues. And that's where we intercede and we have to step in, knowing that what we're going to spend is going to be sacrificial. But in terms of safety and maintaining the network, we have to do it.
And at the moment, the MCR is not programmed till FY29, and it's not planned to change. So there is...
But we know that there's a high-level route assessment that was done. We know that that's informed some of the Pages Road bridge work that hasn't even started construction. So why can we not look at that for Worcester Street and Pages Road?
So through the chair, if I can answer for the councillor, we had a safety and flooding issue there. People couldn't access the bus stop when it was flooding. So we had a point at which we had to do it. We still have a huge amount of work to do on the MCR before we can build anything, including all of the
So
consultation.
it couldn't be included in that piece of work on Pages Road. So, and I think you've explained it in the report that you aim to synergise where
We can't
possible.
always do it.
Please, can't always do it.
So
Thank you.
Is there an ability though? Because part of the problem is we don't have visibility of the program level. So with the maintenance, like for a lot of curb and channel renewal, we only know about it after they've started work, and it doesn't give the community any chance to engage around, minor safety things like possibly changing.
All right, we get a response from.
So
We'll come back about, as Lynette said, this work is about an operational report. The work around capital planning, capital program is going to continue to be discussions at F&P under the capital program.
Yeah.
And I think
we can address that there.
the problem is that a lot of the maintenance stuff and the operational stuff that we're doing is sometimes the projects that people come to our LTP or our annual plan and want stuff done. It's not just binary. It's actually quite confusing because we can't get streets prioritised in terms of the LTP or the annual plan because we don't have the program list. But actually sometimes the work is scheduled to happen. And if we knew that, we can talk to the community about it ahead of time to see what the opportunities are to address the concerns.
Okay, so we'll address that.
Yeah.
Address that by email.
And the final question from me is picking up on the 30k speed limit that we've implemented. Have we got, I understand like there's one road in particular in my area, Gloucester Street, which we are looking at reviewing because of the impact. Do we have a time frame for that coming back to us to make any recommendations or look at what's happened?
All speed limit changes are currently on hold until we get the new setting the speed limits rule.
Right, but in Gloucester Street, where I've had a lot of feedback that it's actually created a more dangerous road environment because people are overtaking, speeding, not following the 30k. My understanding was staff are aware of those concerns and are looking at that in terms of monitoring what's happening.
As soon as a new rule comes out, we'll address that as best we can with whatever the rules states we can do.
Yeah. Okay.
We don't know what the rule's going to come out as yet.
Okay, keep us posted. Thank you. Councillor Kewen?
Yeah, just on the survey ones under WaySafe and Network, and I see that they come from our Life in Christchurch transport survey. So 77% of people travel by foot, find it easy, very easy. 69% cycling, 67% bus. Do we ask the same question around cars?
Yes, there is.
Because that's the majority.
I believe there was. There may not have come through in the stats, but I believe the question was about how easy or difficult did you find it. They did a lot of point of contact surveys as well to inform the Life in Christchurch questions as well.
Yeah, and then the one that is the standout there is 69% of residents find travel by bike easy and very easy. I mean, that's a number we should be pushing out and celebrating because it's not dangerous. It's easy and very easy, according to 2/3 of the people, which is good.
Okay. Councillor Barber?
Yeah, thank you, team. Great report. Really want to acknowledge the work you've done with potholes because I've certainly noticed that they are being dealt to really quickly across the Burwood ward. Also very pleasantly surprised by the improvements that Councillor Donovan was talking about, Rookwood Bower. That just going through that intersection lately, you know, people are going through a lot slower. I was a bit sceptical, especially with the speed humps out, but yeah, I think that's really working. My question really is around rejuvenation sealing, which has happened in a couple of streets near me. Has it been a success?
Yeah, absolutely it has. So just to clarify, we've had a couple of different strategies. We have a rejuvenation seal that livens up old binders, and we can use that in asphalt and chip seal. And we've also had a microsurfacing where we lock in the top surface. So it's been such a great success that our contractors were recently identified as exemplars in the field for the Civil Construction Contractors Awards for New Zealand and shortlisted as winners.
That's
so we were there on the weekend, and we're actually presenting all this next month to the Innovations Expo in Tapai.
So that's extending the life of services.
Yeah, significantly.
What is it, by 10, 15 years? Or something
Well,
like that?
it's the rejuvenation is a minimum 5 to 7,
Yeah.
but expected to go up to 15, and the microsurfacing is 10 to 15 plus, depending on traffic loading.
Do you just want to explain the difference between microservicing?
Yeah, so when we talk about microsurfacing, you're going to see some other stuff that comes around, but basically it's a top coat. So it's a product we put on the very top of the surface. So if we can intervene on some of these roads at the right time in their life cycle, you know, we can then extend the life of that asset before it starts to fall apart. That's the whole point of what we've been doing to push it all out.
So that would be a massive saving.
Oh, it is. And that's why you see we've reached that 5.48% of this past year, because of the different strategies we've been putting in place to extend the amount of work we can do at the right time to intercede.
And really pleasing to see that you have a local Canterbury supplier for rejuvenation sealing, but the microsurfacing is an American company. Is there anybody
It is at the
working on
moment.
that?
It is at the moment, but you're going to see in the next lot of these reports, we've got other stuff coming in from Australia, other stuff being made here in Woolston, but it's just got to meet the requirements of what we need.
Yeah, well, that's a great explanation. It'd be really good if we could get that out there. I know in my area we were a wee bit blindsided by that first rejuvenation sealing. A lot of complaints from residents. They didn't know what was going on. But yeah, I think it's a great story, and I hope we can sort of get that out there.
So going on from that, within the letter drops, we explain what's going in there, and we have links that take you back to Council's website. One of the things that Lynette's challenged us on is improving our communications for the coming year. So what we're doing is filming this work, and we're putting videos onto our webpage so residents can just access that and see what it looks like.
Yeah, well, if you're doing it in my area, let me know any more.
Yeah, and I think that's a good point. Just send a link out through the board advisors, so any community board members can have a look and share the info.
Yep.
That's
We'll
really,
do that.
really brilliant. Councillor Fields.
Through the
Thanks,
chair,
Philip.
can I? Sorry,
yes.
sorry, Councillor Fields.
Yes.
Through the chair, can I just acknowledge something? I would like to actually. Steve raised it with a maintenance team being finalists in the maintenance contractors of the year at the CCNZ Awards, and Steve and Megan were part of that team, and I'd like to acknowledge him for that. Being finalists is a big deal, and he's done a lot of work this year to get these new products up and running and find new ways. It does mean sometimes that things seem a little bit out of order because you've got to get those surfaces on at the right time for the asset. So we're balancing that across the network.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for that, Lynette, and it's deserved recognition.
Thanks, Councillor Fields.
That's what I was just telling you.
Oh, me.
No, it's Helen.
Oh.
Your question?
I've got the nod. Oh, good. Well, after we've just supported them, I was going to heap on some even more praise, really. But look, I mean, first of all, thank you to the team. I mean, you do go above and beyond, particularly around the Inner Harbour and Littleton Harbour, and notably quite recently, just additional work over Dyers Pass Road, particularly in Tim's ward. So not Banks Peninsula, but really have gone above and beyond. I guess my question is: what are the things that I can encourage the communities around Littleton Harbour to do to work better with your teams in order to sort of make sure that that we can sort of work towards shared outcomes, I guess, rather than just this kind of spray of snaps and solves and all this kind of stuff. Yeah, is there any sort of top tips that you might have?
I think the key is in the question you asked, and that's to reduce that spray and to actually get some focus on those community groups. So if there's residents associations, how they then feed up to the community boards, and just enable that communication rather than getting a scattergun approach of comms. The more focused it is, the easier it is for us to then address those concerns.
Thanks, Steve. That's really good advice, because I mean, what I see happening is really similar patterns start to emerge, don't they? You start to see the same kind of things come through, And I suppose it's better just to keep those things focused. So that's really helpful. Thank you. And again, thanks for the work you do, all of you.
So I'll just jump in as well. So one of the other things that can help is when my team come around to the community boards to present what we're planning to do in the coming year, in the coming seasons, just, you know, it's been a real, I think we've taken some of the community boards by surprise, even though we prepped them for it and give them a month or two's notice. Sometimes they don't always have a lot of input to give us with what residents are asking for, because then it helps, if you have an answer, it helps us try to focus what we deliver in some areas.
Thank you. Councillor Peters. Oh, Councillor Coker. And then
Sorry,
Councillor
this is
Peters.
just another piece of feedback. But the bits about the minor safety intervention and programs, all that stuff, like that is working so well with our board area. And that Hoonhay Rose Street intersection, like I've seen lots of people just crossing at the pedestrian island. Like those pedestrian islands that haven't been there forever are really valuable. And I just wanted to commend like our local transport staff, because they're coming out and talking to the residents. I think it does clarify the comments that we get as councillors or community board members, for then the staff to see that, and it ends up in really great solutions. So I just want to thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Peters. It better be a good one. Don't bring us down now.
Thank you. Picked up on the Shands Road cycle lanes in that report there, and I think that was a really great example of your team working really well. Thanks to Steve and the crew for that resurfacing down Shands Road. It made our community out there smile and feel loved. And then to see the forward thinking of getting those cycle lanes on there is remarkable. I thought that was exceptional, so good work. Thinking going forward, Amy's Road is always a point of mind.
Here.
Yep. And that's this coming season, I think. And
It depends on funding. Yeah. That's what it's all about.
Right, and I guess the one question is, are you able to enlighten the community as to the process leading in towards that, regarding testing and making sure of surface strength before chucking more seal over the top of it?
Yep, I mean, one part in here you might have seen is where we talk about a thing called MSD, so it's multi-speed deflectometer. So we're probably the first council leading the way, even across the agency, where we've had a truck drive every sealed road around Christchurch and the peninsula, and it tells us, it gives us quite a lot of information. It tells us not only where we have any weak spots in the pavement, but what depth those weak spots are, because then it can then inform what our strategies, our intervention strategies are going forward, and what our funding requirements are. So that's what we're analysing specifically on Amy's.
Excellent. So it sounds like it's good preparation work ahead of it.
Yeah, they know what they're doing.
Oh, exactly. They're a great team.
Yeah, they are.
Just thinking about particularly my area with state highways being a massive interaction in and around the Hornby area. I gather you work strategically and well with the likes of Waka-Kotahi and then also with Kiwi Rail, because we've got those as well.
Yep.
Is there any way we can start to, I guess, get some more traction with some of the intersection requirements is the big one around the Hornby area, onto State Highway 1 with right turns and safety improvements onto those intersections?
We probably need to know which specific ones you're looking for, because we work with Kiwi Rail, or we've been working with Kiwi Rail on their next 3 years worth of renewals. And we work with the agency all the time, and we've also taken over a number of the state highway roads revocated back to council that we're planning to do something on, if not this season, next season.
Okay. I think it sounds like you're making pretty good progress with Kiwi Rail. So look, that's the end of the questions. I'm happy to move this report. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Scandrett. Is there any discussion? I think, look, we've all heaped praises on you, both for the report and for the work that you're doing. And I mean, we've all noticed there's a heck of a lot of work going on around our streets at the moment. There's a lot of work going on, so the program seems to be running well. And thank you for all you do. Congratulations again, Steve, and your team for what you've achieved.
Thank you.
Yeah. So I'll put the motion. All those in favour say aye. Aye. Opposed? That's carried. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
So we'll break for morning tea. I think we'll break till 11:20 because we just want a couple of discussions. So back at 11:20. Back, everyone. So now we're on to item 8. So plan change 14, there's a replacement report as an attachment. So you'll note that we've got a new resolution here, so that we can requesting staff to apply to seek an extension of the time, because the information required is not going to be possible for our staff to get that done by the 4th. But there may be some pieces that you can get ready by the 4th. So this is just really seeking an extension that we may or may not be granted, but we need to ask for it. So Mark, I think I'll get you to just run through the main points of this, please.
Yes, certainly. So in the information session we had on Plan Change 14 yesterday, there was questioning on what could be decided on the 4th of September, and staff have subsequently reconsidered the resolutions in the supplementary replacement report. Staff now consider there are some decisions that the council can be in a position to make on the 4th of September, and that would be consistent with an option in the report at paragraph 4.34. The additional resolution number 3 reflects that, and I just emphasise that there's the opportunity to make decisions on matters, and it's not exclusive in terms of the list of matters within that resolution.
Right. They're just examples.
Today is a decision on 2 matters. The first is more time being requested by asking the Minister to amend the Gazette notice. That would enable more time for a decision on the residential chapter and any other matters that are not decided on the 4th of September. The second aspect of the report is a delegation to the Head of Planning and Consents to request clarifications of the IHP. Most importantly, there is still time for staff and for you to work through what you may wish to decide on the 4th of September, 2 weeks from now. And even with the resolutions before you, there's no commitment to what is decided on that day. The substantive decision is for the 4th of September, and there may be other matters you wish to decide on that day. Ultimately, anything that's not decided, we are proposing that you make a decision before the 20th of December. More information is anticipated from the IHP. Staff have made a request of the IHP for clarification on their interpretation of a Waikanai High Court decision, and this will, if a response is received, that will help as a way forward and may provide additional information that we can assist you with to enable a decision on the 4th.
Excellent. Thank you. Yeah, because the amount of information that you have to come up with by the 4th is just not doable. You can't rewrite a residential chapter in that time, and you're relying on them to come back with the information in time as well. So, the mover, Councillor McDonald, Councillor Peters seconded. I don't think there's any more questions on this, so I'm happy to move I'll put the motion. All those in favour say aye. Aye. Opposed? That's carried. Thank you. And on that note, I'll hand back to, and hang in there, this is challenging, I'll hand back to the Mayor to introduce his report.
Okay. Thank you, Pauline, for looking after it for me this morning. Okay, Mayor's report. I've got, it's changed a little bit. It's got a little bit more in it than what it has had in the past. Just to say what I have done, what I am doing, just to give everyone a bit more clarity, so it's so I'm not sitting around here just breathing oxygen. Thank you for your vote of support. Right. Yeah. So it's there. If there's any questions, one thing I will say that I've been away with Jake and Victoria for just over 2 weeks to China, which was extremely busy. We went to Shenzhen, Wuhan, Beijing, Hohhot, Gansu, and all the way up to where Rewi Ali is buried. So that was an extremely it was very, very good to go there. So while I was away, Pauline did local water done well, which is very good. She actually had a lot of exciting things to do, and I wasn't actually missing it, to be honest. We're also looking forward to getting stuck into city deals. There is a little bit of work happening already on that. And in the report is the list of upcoming engagements coming forward. I've had the One New Zealand Stadium naming, and Chris Pink and Simon Bridges, and went and had a breakfast with Mayor Wayne Brown while I was up there with Simon Bridges. So that was exciting on the side of the road at a cafe. Went to Lancaster Park and did a whole lot of native planting there, which was introducing all the new people from the in-house team that Parks and Reserves have brought in, and it was a very good team building morning. They had a hell of a lot of plants. Mary and I did a few laps on the new lawnmowers they've got, and I did some donuts on the grass. So, and then the community beat team announcement for the police. They had eight and they're getting 10 more in, so that's working well. Went out to the Riccarton races for Red Nose Day with Will Hall for cancer awareness. And there's all, you'll see it in there. There's all sorts of things. One thing, I went to Cashmere High, and I'll share this with you. It was get their 6th and 7th formers in there because I'm older, 12 and 13 13 and 12. And they wanted me to go out there and talk to them about leadership. God knows why, but they did. And one thing I said was...
They've all been subsequently expelled.
Yeah, one thing I said... and they all came in during the holiday, so it was good. It was a hell of a lot of them. It was good. And one thing I said to them, I said, right, if you guys think you're going to waltz out of here and get a job for 150 grand a year as soon as you walk out the door, get ready for disappointment. And the teachers down the back said, thank you so much for telling them this sort of stuff, because they needed to hear that sort of thing. And I said, the other thing I said was, if you get a good job and you're enjoying it and you have a hard night on the Sunday night, still go to work. Don't just ring up and say, I can't be bothered today, because that won't get you any promotions and stuff going forward. You've got to be there and do it. So don't shirk off. And so,
depends how much residual stuff is still in the system.
yeah. So
inspirational words.
So no, it was good. We met and you'll see the list there, the people we met in China. One of the things that stood in my mind was Shenzhen 40 to 45 years ago had 30,000 people in it. Now it's got 16 million people. So they had, what was the saying, Victoria? Money, time is money and efficiency is life. So we're writing the memo as we speak. So the way that they get so much go forward stuff and get things done is phenomenal. Going around on a fast train at 350 kilometres an hour and meeting all these people, the productivity you can do by moving around the country so quick is phenomenal. So it was a great trip, and once again I thank Pauline for holding the fort while we were away. So if there's any questions, I'll answer them.
They were very well behaved.
Thank you very much. Yes, Kelly.
Yeah, thanks, Phil. Did you see any innovations over there that you thought, gosh, we could do with something like that in Christchurch?
One of the couple of things. One of the things we went to, and you will see the photo somewhere along the line. We went out to in Shenzhen. They do a lot of wetlands to treat their water before it goes into the river, and it was 44 degrees. And you would swear I was at a wet t-shirt competition. The just dripping off you. The humidity is unbelievable. So I went there, that was good. Another one we went to was where in the middle of, I think it was Wuhan, it used to be a landfill, and there was photos of the compactors right in the middle of town building big mounds of rubbish. They've turned it all into a reserve, and that's where we planted that tree. And how they've transferred that around is unbelievable. Shenzhen, because it's so young, there's so many tech companies. One scary thing was they put a microphone on all of us at one time or another, and you talk for 30 seconds, and then then it just does an AI copy of you, and it goes, "Oh, hi, my name's Phil Major, I'm the Mayor of Christchurch, yada, yada, yada," for 15 seconds, and then it goes straight into Mandarin, and my mouth moves exactly to the way the Mandarin comes out of my mouth. It's very clever, but it's also a bit scary. So
That might help us for understanding you here.
Yeah, thank you very much. but we went and saw autonomous vehicles. We saw trackless trams, a few of those around the place. So it was very well worth it. And the main thing was that you can do all this stuff with emails, or you can do it online and Zoom and stuff like that, but you cannot beat the face-to-face stuff. And to actually see at where Riwi Alley is buried, they've got a whole museum there, 3-story museum with photos and stuff all around it. It's actually a bit sad. I feel a bit sad, or that we don't respect Riwi Alley here, who went to school at Boys High and was born in Springfield. They treasure him. They really do. And a lot of people here don't know diddly dot about it. So we need to push that a little bit more, whether we can get half of their photographs and stuff like that and the story of Riwi Alley and put it at either the Art Centre or the Art Gallery or something like that, because it's very good.
I think it's worth mentioning that in the Riwi Alley Museum there's a big section on promotion of Christchurch. Amazing up-to-date photos and promotional opportunities for Christchurch. I've captured all of that, so I'll be happy to share that.
And they're mad keen on doing student exchange, and one of the good things about it is, as I said over there, from Guangzhou to Christchurch, direct flights coming in, but there's some talk about going straight from Beijing to Christchurch as well. So it's good, because we can send our students over there, they can send our students here, so it's excellent.
Yeah, can I just add that one of the other outcomes as well was some conversations around the Chinese garden. We're going to develop a Chinese garden out at Hallswell Quarry, and we saw a fabulous design of what they'd like to do with that garden, and we managed to come away with an agreement for them to fund that as well. And there are a couple of other exchanges that they're prepared to help fund in agricultural and cultural exchanges. So we certainly didn't come away empty-handed.
So we'll look after the concrete foundations. They'll build the thing over there, pull it apart, put it in some containers and send it over here, and possibly send some people over here to build it. There's a Japanese one there as well. Similar, very similar.
Now that we've got you through AI and Mandarin, is it your voiceover that's going to be promoting Christchurch at the museum over there, or because that may not be a positive? Just saying.
One thing I did do, and we had a few, and to the people down the back, Tina, we didn't just go there and eat dinner every day, but at one particular dinner we went to, like I'm talking, the table is about, it's got to be 15 metres across. It's massive. It is, or 10 metres easy, circular. And the guy came in and started doing the noodles, how they make the noodles. So I had a go at that. So they put that on their television over there of me making noodles in China. So, okay. So all those in favour?
Aye.
All those against? Thank you. That's carried. Right. Yeah. I could have gone on for hours. So it was good. So righto. Now we'll move up to Takaha Streets, please. Are you?
Well, I'll move it, but we might be a slight tweak. So I'll move the staff rec, but we might have to change.
Okay. I'll second. Sam will move the staff rec. I'll second the staff rec, but there might be a wee change floating around.
Just signalling a foreshadow.
Is that Andre?
Thank you. Kia ora koutou. So this morning we're bringing you a report on the construction sequencing and a proposal for the construction sequencing for the Takaha Street works. I am going to introduce beside me, I've got Jenny Rankin, who's the project manager, and beside her is Dan Lucas. Dan works for Lucas Haining, and is working as part of the Isaacs team who've won the construction work, and he's here to discuss a little bit about the construction programming that they've planned and why they've planned it, and here to answer your questions if needed. There are elements of this report that are in PX. If we need to, we will have to discuss those at that time. I also just want to take a quick minute to remind all the councillors that staff are coming back and committed to coming back in September to discuss the outcomes of the publication of the NLTP program from NZTA. And at that point, we'll be talking about the entire transport program, but there will be discussions around options moving forward. And we are also have also committed to coming back in October, November, regarding options for the next stages of work on this package. Jenny's got a really short presentation, 3 or 4 slides to talk through, and there's one at the end around the sort of timeline over the next few months that'll help. So I'll pass over to you, Jenny.
No worries. Just try and get you to the first slide. There we go. So about a month ago, we awarded Isaac's Construction with the package of work, which includes the 3 waters, or 2 waters upgrades, as well as the transport works. But the 2 waters works we kind of approved for construction almost immediately. So that was awarded, and they have been on the ground now for a couple of weeks doing first potholing and servicing, and now they're actually in the ground. I think up to date 600 metres of pipe has been installed in that upgrade. So we have awarded that portion of the work straight away. What we have not done is awarded for delivery and progressed with is that transport portion of the works, and that is due to that NZTA decision not coming through in time. But what we have done is we've awarded it on a provisional and separable portion basis to Isaac's Construction, on the understanding that we have a price and we have a program that we can work to should that NZTA funding decision be made. But what we're coming, if we just go to the next slide. All right. So this kind of illustrates what we're in at the moment in terms of that pipe renewal. But what we, if we go to the next slide, coming to you today is to discuss how we proceed with that transport work. So at the moment, Isaac's Construction are working on this program where they've got 3 crews around the stadium getting those pipes underground underway. But what we really need to do is maximise on some efficiency and going past some of those key stakeholders and that area, just to try and minimise our disruption and to get value for money across this contract. So what we've proposed to you today is to proceed with a small portion of the transport works on the immediately surrounding streets. So that's called separable portion 2, which you'll see highlighted there. So that is the areas in red, which are basically the areas immediately adjacent to the arena and a portion of Litchfield Street between Manchester and Madras Street. So if we skip to the next slide, the reason why we are proposing this is that we really want to maximise on that construction efficiency. So we want to be right in there with that 3 water work, ensuring that we're going over it in one pass as much as possible. This will minimise our disruption to our neighbouring businesses and property owners, and it will ensure that we are finished in time for the opening of the stadium. So if we were to delay all that transport work until the NZTA decision, then we would potentially come at risk of not meeting that deadline, and we would be causing more disruption for longer to those neighbouring areas. And one of the key things that we need to do is to tie in those street levels with that new stadium. We have existing stormwater concerns in the area on the road that we need to address in that tie-in with that new stadium level. So ideally we need to proceed with those stormwater related connections and levels now in order to achieve that delivery ahead of this stadium's opening. So I'll just go to the next slide. So this is where we are in terms of the next steps. So obviously we're coming to you today. Should you say yes to us proceeding today with some of that transport work, we'd look to commence in the next few days on some of that transport stuff. That's really around that stormwater tie-ins that we can achieve immediately. We'd then hope to get that NZTA decision out in October, and we'd come back to a report to you in November around what that decision was that they came back with and what our next steps would be in terms of you making them for us to proceed on the remainder of the separable portion 3 elements that was in that diagram. So that's those. Yeah, we'll come back with some options around that, what that would mean for the remainder of the package of the transport works. So really, we've got until December really for a go, no-go decision on that in terms of potential impact on us delivering this ahead of the opening of Takaha. So we're really in a tight time frame to deliver these works ahead of the opening. So we're really on a push of needing to know now where we go in terms of what we're delivering, into ensuring basically when the arena's opening that we're not there constructing at the same time as 30,000 people are coming to the first event.
Yep.
So Dan can probably talk you through maybe some of the
Yeah, it may be easiest to go back to the previous slide, just with a graphic there. So this is an example of Litchfield Street that has a sewer, water and stormwater installation underneath the road and then progressively build up and finish the carriageway on top. So if we can do the work efficiently and one after another in a traditional one-pass approach, that allows us to essentially extend the trenches each time wider and wider. If we weren't to continue on with the next task, we need to fill that trench right up, surface it, potentially go away and then come back if a transport decision was made later to then dig it up again. So we are pretty driven to be running a flexible program. So coming inside the central city, we've always needed to account for the number of different stakeholders that are around, and we are pretty dynamic in that space. And we've kind of shown it already with the award of just the 2 waters. That has changed our program around a bit, but we do get to a point where we've got that sort of clinch point that is sort of a no or go. Which is probably where we are today, where we've been installing pipe for 8 days now, and we're actually about 4 days ahead of program. So that's with the 600 metres of pipe we've already got in. So that's where the crews out there are literally waiting at the moment to understand, do we backfill this trench right up, or do we move over one to start installing the next pipe?
Questions? Anyone? Aaron, then Jake, then me.
Yeah, so just on the backfilling the trenches, if we're waiting till later in the year for a transport decision, can't we just run AP40 up to the surface, compact it and leave it?
The volume of traffic on the roads is a bit of an issue. So if we backfill that trench, we obviously then want to remove the traffic management. If we were to leave sort of gravel filled up in those trenches and expose the volume of traffic that does work on Barbados and Madras Street, it'll fall to bits pretty quickly.
So it's not really doable.
We can temporary surface, but which would then be removing again should the decision be made.
Right. Okay.
Dan, one of the questions I've got is why does the stuff, and Brent probably answered this question, the stuff in Litchfield Street, the pipe work, has to happen for the outfall of what's happening around the rest of it? You can't say, no, don't have to do that bit because it has to.
That's correct, and we've already, when this was discussed last time at council, that and the age of the asset, it's the opportunity to do it now to avoid disruption later on as well.
Yeah, but if we do, because I imagine, Dan, and I'm right with you here, you need to be getting going now because you've got the summer construction period that you can work all hours that God gives you to get stuff done quickly rather than hosing down with water. But if Litchfield Street bit was not done because it's part of the dotted line bit, does the stormwater have to be done under it now? Say we said we didn't want to do Litchfield Street at all, or are you already in there?
We're in there installing water and sewer at the moment.
Right, as we speak. Okay. So what I'm getting at is we need to decide whether we want to spend the money on Litchfield Street now and finish it, or whether we just want to patch it over at the top, isn't it? But you've still got one shed load of work to do on all the other 3 streets around the...
Yeah, so the general approach we take is when we turn up and we put our famous road cones on the road, we bring disruption, and it's a really balance of disruption versus duration. So given that we're there and making a disruption anyway, our preference is to probably add to that disruption but be gone sooner down the line. So you saw on the map that Jenny put up, there's a number of different streets there they do all plan to finish at different times. And that is why we are hitting all of those areas at once, is to essentially treat each street as its own project, assign its own resource to it, its own management, hit it hard and get out as fast as we can.
Mm-hmm. Just a question for you, Lynette. It's on there where it says separable portion 3 from Churm back to Morehouse. That's on the sort of the back burner at the moment, the way I'm getting at it. Were we going to do Litchfield and Churm as well? Were they part of it as well?
Yep.
So
Yes, they were always part of it. And there's some works at Fitzgerald Ave that were part of it with signals and things like that to assist coaches. And so there was a lot of traffic management work that was done, some tweaks and changes, but it's not to the same, those streets are not to the same extent as Litchfield Street on the other side.
Okay. There's probably a relevant point, because we're making disruption on Madras and Barbados. Fitzgerald becomes really critical for across city traffic movements. So we need to complete the work on Barbados and Madras anyway before we can go out and mess around with the lights on Fitzgerald.
Litchfield, Churm, and Madras, down to Morehouse is that's the number 3. Don't worry about that yet at all.
That's the one we would come back with in the next report with options,
if we got
knowing what the decisions is. Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Jake, sorry, did you have a question, mate? I hit your hand up somewhere.
It's AI, Jake.
Yep. Sorry, hard to find the button. I'll start speaking Mandarin shortly. No, just I'm having a hard time following the logic of why we would proceed with the non-critical option 2 transport stuff, but not the $5 million remainder. But surely both are reliant on subsidy, probably to a similar degree. Is that accurate, or have I got something wrong?
Yep.
So effectively, what we've done is, and we have to be quite careful how I talk to this, being non-PX, is when we apply to NZTA for our subsidy, we apply on the basis that some of the elements of that package can be subsidised, and there is a value of that we have applied for, being 11 million. So the work we're asking you to proceed to does not exceed the value of what we would.
I see.
It doesn't exceed. It's approximately the value. It doesn't exceed the value of what we've assumed in our assumptions. I think that's what.
Right. So
we probably need to have that conversation in PE.
Yeah,
it would be clearer.
So roughly speaking,
I think I've actually got enough from that answer anyway.
Yeah. So we've tried to balance this to minimise your financial risk, the financial risk to council. So that's what the options are about.
We've also informed that through overlapping it with our construction program, and what we're saying is those orange areas don't actually need to start before October or November when that decision would be made.
But it wouldn't be the end of the world to you guys if it never happened at all for years.
We'd love to do the work.
I'm sure you would. but if we haven't got the money, what I think I'm understanding is you've condensed it down to the bit of the money that we've rated for and got on budget, except the bit that we may get from NZTA.
Yep. Exactly.
Okay. Melanie.
So with the separable portion 3, if we make that decision sooner, does that mean that work will proceed faster?
Certainly on the Morehouse to Churm section on Madras Street. Like I said, we can't actually go on to Fitzgerald until we're off Barbados and Madras. Yeah. But what we're essentially doing at the moment is when we created our construction program, each street was programmed in its own manner and each had a bit of float at the end of the program to take us out to that sort of October drop dead date that we've got. What we're doing at the moment is essentially eating into that float, so things start to become pretty tight on paper, but they do still work.
Right, and then if we leave it, just to be clear, the separable portion 3, it would still, that work would happen before the stadium opens.
That's correct.
That's where the drop dead date comes in.
If you go to the next slide,
in December, we would need to know what the status of that is before it starts impacting on their ability to deliver ahead of their stadium's opening.
So we need to know that before Christmas. That's what the drop dead date is. That was on that last slide. Okay. If you can put it up, please.
Aaron, please.
Two quick questions. Back to the diagram, the of the layers. Yeah, that one there. It finishes at the bottom end with pavers, or is this just an?
That's the example of Litchfield Street.
Right. Are we putting pavers there? Because the previous report we had said we're swapping out pavers for stamped concrete in some areas. And
So that's obviously a diagram of so there's some
What could
pavers
happen.
across Litchfield Street. Not all of it will be pavers, but there is still pavers across Litchfield Street. That's around that look of getting that speed environment a little slower, but it will still be asphalt in there as well. But there are kind of threshold treatments with pavers.
right, and we do that rather than the stamped concrete. Just that the previous report said we're going to stamped concrete in some areas, so I thought, when I saw that,
I can't recall
that,
stamped
so
concrete.
We'll come back on the
Right.
stamped concrete.
Yeah, just I don't know, might have just been overlooked. And then the other one is the delivery speed, because this work obviously, like you say, we're down to one lane in two directions and from four in some spots, so it creates a lot of inconvenience and congestion. And the guys working on the stadium are there 7 days a week. Is the road construction going to be more than 42 hours a week?
So we're currently averaging about 52 hours a week for
Okay.
each employee, but we also have a large number of residential properties around. So our contract currently reads that we can work till lunchtime on Saturday, and beyond that we need to make a special request to work, and that I think most of that is around the noise thresholds of the district plan.
So just to get it in the public domain here, is one of the hold-ups that the permission thing, not the availability of workers and that? Because we often get the public say, why don't you go hard, even do 12-hour days, 24-hour days, all that kind of thing, and just whack it out and then the road flows?
There's no issue with worker availability. There's a bit more complexity to the programming because obviously our staff still need a break at weekend.
And safety.
So
yes,
we end
yes,
up with
a
kind of a double shift pattern where a team are on this 5 days and this 5 days. So it's about having enough work in front of them that they don't turn up. And
it's permission rather than availability.
Yes. Yep.
Cool. That's very interesting for us to know as a council.
And community, I'd just like to add to that, and community impact, especially working in residential areas. Yeah,
They
so that's-
differ. Half them want it done really fast that live next door to it, and others want it only done for 3 hours a day.
They're going to move it. Yeah, they're going to move it in the next few weeks.
Okay, so what am I doing, Mary?
So Pauline and Jake have
There it is.
moved and seconded is it Pauline and Jake or Pauline and Tim? And then Sam's prepared to just put it into the full motion.
Full agreement to,
Yeah, you happy with that, Sam?
to indicate
Okay.
that we can.
So are we happy with what we all see here, ladies and gentlemen?
So if you're rolling that in, we don't need to vote on it separately.
No.
That's correct. You're happy to roll it in?
Yep.
I'm happy to roll it in. Okay, so we'll put it.
Sorry, can I ask my questions?
Oh, sorry, Yanni, I didn't see your hand there, mate.
Yeah. Do we have any understanding of when that NLTP program will be released?
Yes.
What date?
So as I said at the start, it will be the NLTP is due to be published in September. That's the whole program, and then Waka Kotahi, as we've said before, have said they will come back to, and I think it's in the report, they said they will come back to us in October or November on this project in particular.
Right, and I mean, given that Chris Luxon's asked councils to make savings before asking government for handouts, the chances of us getting additional money must be pretty slim.
So we're not seeking additional money. We are seeking what we've already sought. Basically, they've put our application on hold until the NLTP came out.
Right.
So they have our business case. They have received it. They have assured us that they have received all the evidence and supporting documentation they need. They just won't make the decision on that until they have.
So
They
given
deferred the decision until the GPS was finalised.
right, but have we looked at, given we know that there's going to be a shortfall funding, not just this but across the country for transport projects, have we looked at value engineering this in any way to save or reduce costs so that we can continue to proceed if we don't get the government subsidy?
That would slow us down a lot. Though we're working with it. Dan can talk to what they're aiming to do as quickly and as efficiently as possible.
So we've not identified, like, despite the fact knowing that government were going to be.
That's part of the that's part of the identification of the separable portions. If you can pop can you flick to the slide? Sorry, the one with the red and yellow lines. That's part of the options, is not to do part of it. That's effectively value engineering. So that's what we've put up to you. That's what this report is about, effectively.
Taking out the brown line, putting the brown lines on hold.
But we don't have an option for not tying in with the street levels and not ensuring that the stormwater works.
Yeah, I get that, but things like the materials being used, the paving, etc., the high cost elements in the project.
So the high cost elements, and it's really only Litchfield Street that has high cost elements and design, rain gardens, etc. They are still in separable portion 3. So separable portion 2 gets you up to a trafficable surface.
Right.
And the preferred option, that's what we
preferred option. Yeah.
Okay, and if that's the case, then it would seem that the funding request to NZTA, would that be retrospective if we commit to this today?
They have confirmed that is not retrospective because we are already in it, and they confirmed that they put a hold on the decision, and in this instance it is not retrospective, and they have confirmed that.
So if we make the decision today, we proceed ahead of that, then the only subsidy that we're looking at from them will be for option 3?
No, it's for the whole project.
The whole project.
Right, but how does that time with the retrospective nature?
They got all the information that they needed prior to us tendering this work.
Okay.
They chose, and this is what they advised us, they chose to not make the decision until the GPS was finalised, and we are working with Waka Kotahi to keep moving forward.
Okay.
So, question from me. If NZTA don't come up with the money, Dan will go to a certain point and stop unless we flog some money off another project somewhere else one day.
We will come back with options of how to fund this in the next report. That's the next.
Okay.
There will be options, and it could include substitution. It could include not delivering some other projects. It could include not doing part of this work. So there's all sorts of options, and we will come back with it. It could be do it because we get the subsidy.
Yeah. So while you're sitting there, just take the variation book out of the back of Dan's pocket.
Believe me, I make sure that it's done really early in the process.
Okay. Oh, sorry, Aaron, and then we'll put it.
And we may have seen this, but I'm not sure, only because it does relate to today. Have we ever seen a traffic model? We had the traffic plan of how the list of the way each person will travel to and from the stadium, but have we seen it working as a model? We had the one where all the little ants go out the thing, but they only get to the footpath, and then they disappeared. All the ants were just home safe then. But back in reality, have we ever seen that? Like a model like looks at the city and they're all going to, and 17,000 will go that way.
Yeah, so there was an independent transport assessment done, I can't remember the date now, a couple of years ago at least, which looked at how people would come into the city, and there was a diagram presented to you in I think November 23, which still contained that diagram, I believe, around how people were perceived that they would be accessing that, and that forms part
and
of.
Do we still think that's accurate?
We still believe
I
that.
had my 8-year-old ask on Saturday, where's everyone going to park as we drove past?
Yep.
And
my kids do too. So they're
Moving right along. Okay, thank you.
Oh,
I'm putting it. All those in favour? Aye. Against?
No.
Right.
Set my that recorded.
Yanni, record Yanni, please. Okay, that is carried. Excellent. Where you go, Dan?
Phil, given this is our biggest anchor project, we should be seeing what the transport modelling looks like. I think we need to be really confident that when we get open, our first 3 events aren't a nightmare for people and puts them off. So I just want that confidence, because some of the numbers we had in the modelling, like the Uber or taxi numbers, seem super low. And are the buses going only to the exchange, or are we blocking a lane on the 2 one-way systems and there'll be 40 buses parked up, which would be my preference, but I want to see all that stuff and have confidence.
Yeah, you're right. I would like to see it like we did Sail GP, which worked extremely well, and have a car park, say, we'll say at the Hornby Hub or say at
Yep.
Westfield.
And I'm happy to say I was wrong on that I didn't think it would be as successful as it was. It worked very well. So I'd be keen to see what our thoughts are going forward, because that was after that last plan was presented, and I think options like that could be the way forward, but it'll only be if it's a door-to-door. They won't do it if they're going to walk 3 blocks to a bus exchange.
Yep, they'll do it.
But it was done by.
Okay, thank you very much. We have now Pauline's getting ready for the karakia. She's standing up. And Kelly's starting it off. Tafu, kia wata, kia ata para, kia tuhi, ai, kia tuhi, ai, homie, hui, ai. Thank you everyone for their attendance. Brilliant.